The pick is in. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is Kamala Harris's choice for running mate. Republicans are slamming the duo as the most far-left ticket in American history. Here's why. His first official move was to establish a state diversity, equity, and inclusion commission, which he renewed in 2022. He enacted an executive order restricting parental rights and so-called gender-affirming care. He signed the most extreme abortion rights bill in the country. And he also signed a bill making migrants eligible for free college tuition. Walz, of course, was the governor during the 2020 Minneapolis riots. His disastrously slow and ineffective response contributed to more than $500 million in damage. He enacted among the most severe COVID lockdowns of any state in the nation, including my favorite, a phone line to report neighbors who failed to comply. And in 2023, he squandered a $17.6 billion budget surplus. In the meantime, raising taxes on income taxes, gas, boats, businesses, and more. Because in Walz's words, socialism is just downright neighborly. For reaction, let's bring in former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. Governor, thanks for being with us. We know Walz on policy. Got that. Here's the thing. I think Kamala likes him because he's got that Midwestern sensibility to him. And I think the media is very happy to carry that narrative. What do you think?
Oh, they may try to carry it, but the facts are the facts. And what you just outlined is the reason that it's really somewhat of a surprise that she would pick someone that is as close to the left of her as one can be. She's as leftist as we have. But I hope Republicans don't fall into the trap of trying to make this an election of the left versus the right, conservatives versus the progressives, because we're going to really lose in that, because most Americans, they don't get caught up in labels. Here's what they want to know. If this team gets elected, is my gasoline going to cost more or less? What about heating and cooling my home? What about when I go to the grocery store and I take that basket full of groceries and I put it on the counter? Is it going to cost me more? Is it going to cost me less? People want to know how it's going to hit them. And if they really look at the policies, forget the personalities, the policies, just simply do this. Compare and contrast, look at the consequences, and we're on our way. That's where Republicans need to focus.
Governor Huckabee, a number of Republicans, including Vivek Ramaswamy, have said that this pick for vice president from Kamala Harris essentially was a gift to the party. I stand back and say they're not stupid. Every move is calculated. What are they looking at here that the Republicans aren't necessarily seeing? And is there a chance that the party becomes overconfident, which ultimately, since the get-go, everyone has been saying you can't do that. Never underestimate your opponent.
Yeah, the election isn't over till those last boxes come in 5 days after the election that weren't even there before. So let's be real careful about being overconfident. And Jackie, I can't agree more. There's nothing worse than the party saying, oh boy, this is a dream team ticket for the Republicans because they're so far to the left. If we don't describe what that means, then we're not gaining anything. They may come across as being compassionate because they want to forgive all your loans and they want to give away more things to migrants, and that sounds so generous. But what we have to remind them is when Walz says, yeah, socialism is just another word for being neighborly. Well, let's remind them that they're wanting to be neighborly with someone else's money. Right. If I give money to a person who is in need, that's charity. If someone robs me, takes my money, and gives it away in their own name, that's theft. So we've got to remind people that if they wish to give money to charity, and I hope they do, the capacity to do that is going to be completely taken away from them by a government that decides that it's the government, not them, who will decide who gets the money and how much they're going to get. We've just got to stay focused on policy and the consequences of policy. I do fear sometimes that Republicans get caught up in the name calling. We want to label everybody a left-wing radical. Okay, they are. Let's give them that. They are all of those things. I want us to break it down and make sense of it for that person who came in tonight bone tired from sweating through his clothes and standing on a concrete floor lifting heavy things. What does he care about? And it ain't labels. It's whether he's going to be able to afford to pay his rent this month.
Governor, you're talking about money, so I'd like to go there. In the last few days, we've sort of woken up within the equity markets about more fears of a recession that appears to be more imminent than maybe we thought just a week ago. How much of fears of a recession, or perhaps a real recession, does take away from some of the enthusiasm of Kamala Harris?
It ought to take away a lot of the enthusiasm, because this is Bidenomics in high gear. And if people love what they see happening to the economy, with consumer prices, with inflation, with investments that make the investors nervous and they start pulling back, then they're only going to get a whole lot more of it if this team of Kamala Harris and Walz are ending up in the White House. I think that's why we saw the markets get really skittish yesterday. You know, there'll be some recovery. They'll come and go, and nobody should get in a panic over stock market in one day or get too giddy about one that's really wonderful on a given day. It's a long-term investment. But we need to make sure the American people understand that when you believe that government is God and you hope that government is going to be the great savior, you're in trouble. You're in real trouble, because government is basically run by a bunch of goons and people that are not looking after the best interest of working class Americans.
Right.
That's what they have to fully embrace and understand.
Government can't save you. If you're lucky, it fills in your potholes. Let's just aim for that for a while.
Lucky.
If you're lucky. Governor, great stuff. Good to see you.
Thanks a bunch. Good to see you guys.